Hello, this is a video that I'm making on YouTube. The reason I'm making this is because I wanted to clarify about playing the guitar on the sound art that I record and upload to SoundCloud. I record loads and loads and loads of tracks. People wondered what sort of samples I was using. I actually don't use samples that often. I use samples on some tracks, but often I'm creating sounds in other ways than using samples, through using synthesizers, using voice, using electric guitar. I create sound in all sorts of ways. I got into sound art originally because I was making video art. I don't have a musical training. I don't have any kind of musical training whatsoever, absolutely none, not even high school musical training, nothing. But I did go to university. I studied fine art. I've got a degree in fine art, and from making art it led me into making digital art and digital video art, and for the digital video art I needed to make soundtracks, so I got increasingly drawn into making art with sounds for the soundtracks of the videos. And now I make a lot of sound art, and a lot of it involves musical sounds. Not always. Sound art doesn't necessarily have to be music. Music is only one possible component within sound art, but that's the kind of work that I do. The stuff that I make, it tends to be digital, occasionally analog, audio and visual, and it crosses over the border into the realm of music, even though, as I say, I have no musical training. So people wanted to know how much I use samples. I don't use samples on every track. There are some tracks that depend on samples and some that don't, a lot that don't. So I've got the electric guitar here to demonstrate the kind of thing that I do as a non-musician. Technically, as an artist working with sounds, the sort of stuff that I do with an electric guitar to make sound art. First of all, I'll give you an example of what it sounds like without the volume turned up, without the amplifier in, but just the acoustic sound of the electric guitar on its own. So here's some of that. And stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be musical, but in that particular instance it was dipping into the realms of music. And I've played guitar with a screwdriver or with other objects to make unusual sounds, or prepared the guitar by sticking pencils between the strings of unusual things, and then of course come amps and all the effects that you can get with amps and pedals. I'm not rich. I'm very, very poor. I work at a minimum wage job, but we have the wonder of computers these days. We have the wonder of computers and software, and we can make software amps and software pedal boards and software reverb designers and all kinds of wonderful things. And I'm fully into that, because when I was at art school in the 90s as a mature student, digital art was where I was orientated, equally as much as analogue art like painting and drawing. So I'm now going to turn up the volume on the guitar, because it's connected to my computer over there, which has software amps and effects and pedals on it that are created inside the computer. So I'll turn that up now. So it's turned up. You get the different effect. Different things like that. Using that particular effect, but if I change the effect, there's a lot more echo there. That echo. And a different effect. Not very good. Not very interesting. This is the one that's supposed to reduce it to 8 bits. An 8-bit sound. You can see I'm not a musician, I'm bottlenecking it with my thumb. I only have 4 strings on a 6-string guitar, and I'm bottlenecking it with my thumb. And anyway, so the basic thing that you can see from that is how I use the electric guitar instead of samples. There are tracks where I use a lot of samples, and even tracks that completely depend on samples, but those are exceptions. Mostly I try to be a bit more creative than just stringing a series of samples onto a beat. And when I do string a series of samples onto a beat, I add things like delay designer and space designer to change the effect, so that it becomes weirder and weirder, and I'm really sculpting into the sound by twiddling knobs and stuff, and until it gets to the weirdness of sound that I'm looking for, and remembering that all this still comes from video art in the first place, and I'm always heading back towards making the images that go with the sounds to rebuild, to build up into videos. And the sound art is just a very interesting sidetrack from that. My name is Peter David Smith, and I put up my work on the internet for free download if you're actually interested in sound art and this sort of stuff. And I do a lot of the things I do under the name of Speculativism.
Speculativism. Yes, it's a very interesting sounding name, as though it was some kind of art movement from 100 years ago. Speculativism. Oh yes, that sounds very interesting, doesn't it?
It's a gag. It's a gag name. It's supposed to be a gag name. It's intended ironically. Yeah. So there you go.